Welcome back to Cask and Point. Today we're going to be trying the most expensive release in Wild Turkey in many years, Wild Turkey Generations. So Wild Turkey Generations has a fun story. Essentially, Jimmy, Bruce, and Eddie, the three family members of the Russell's family, the grandfather, the father, and the son, they all came together and worked on this release. Now these three have been integral cogs in the Wild Turkey machine, being master distillers, truly helping out the business, truly being at the forefront of making some of the best whiskey on the market. And Wild Turkey Generations was meant to blend all of their favorite characteristics of Wild Turkey into one amazing bottle. And the end product was a blend of 9-year, 12-year, 14-year, and 15-year Wild Turkey juice, all at cask strength, bottled at 120.8 proof. But the real kicker is that its MSRP was $450. This blows Wild Turkey Master's Keep out of the water. Russell's 15, which was released not too far after this, $200 less. And so Wild Turkey Generations has always been an interesting release for many people. It charges so much more money than every other release that its secondary market is actually around $500, basically as much as it would cost to just buy it in the store, because some people really like it. Some people say it's good, but other products are just simply better. And so it's, in a way, kind of been forgotten in the Wild Turkey community as one that's solid, but was just really priced in such a way that it's probably worth its MSRP, but really not a dime more than that, at least according to the secondary market. But let's find out for ourselves. Let's get right into trying Wild Turkey Generations. And of course, in the other glass here, I have some Russell's 15, because if you do a Wild Turkey review, you have to have some Russell's 15 on hand, because I also want to see, is it better than Russell's 15? Because Generations, for a time, wasn't really related to Russell's 15, as Generations was around $75 to $100 more expensive on secondary markets. But now that Russell's 15 has surged up, and now they're actually the same price, let's find out which is better. On the nose here, there's a lot of caramel, there's a lot of cherry, good old Wild Turkey funk on this. Definitely getting some pepper on this. Definitely a nice rich oak, some nice vanilla. Overall, a pretty typical Wild Turkey flavor profile on this, but I will say that oak is much stronger, and I think all of the notes are really much stronger than I would typically get on, say, a Russell store pick. I mean, this is nice here. And you could tell there is a little bit of a blend going on with this. I think with the single barrel picks, I would get some of these flavors really, really strong and just like 3 or 4 flavors. But there's clearly a rich oak going on here. There's clearly a little bit of combat in the fruity notes here. Because it's not just like a medicinal cherry. I think there's also some plum. I think there are some darker berries in this as well. I think there are clearly some barrels here that were featuring some of these flavor profiles blended with others. And so we get a concoction here of different flavors, which is nice. Overall, though, it smells very solid. Let's try it. Wow, that's interesting. Wow, that's really nice. So it starts off really fruity. And it gives you these berries, and it gives you the medicinal cherry from good old Wild Turkey. It then gets into this really nice, rich oak, but the caramel goes from the front palate throughout the mid and late palate on that. And some oak comes out, some pepper comes out towards the end, but that is incredibly sweet for a bottle that's average age is above 10 years old. Wow, that's really interesting. At least on the first sip here, I might like this more than Russell's 15. Wow, this is really nice. Let's take another sip. Wow, that's really interesting. So, really comes out with the cherry blasting in the front. Then the cherry kind of develops into this deep, richer berry note on it, which is a really nice path for fruit to go down, because you get the nice bright red fruit in the beginning, and then you also get those darker berries towards the end. But at the same time, the oak on this is going from pretty light in the front palate to much stronger in the mid and late palate, and a vanilla note is coming out as well, and this caramel is just throughout the pour. I mean, I can make a diagram with all these flavor notes and how they're interacting throughout this pour, but wow, that kind of development is really impressive here. I am really liking this pour of whiskey. This might be my favorite Wild Turkey to date. I've tried Russell's 15, I've tried a few of the Dusties, I've tried Pride of Anderson County's 14-year from Rare Character, which is a $700 MSRP bottle. But this bottle of Wild Turkey Generations, oh my, this is really nice. Let's take a third sip here. I will compare it to Russell's 15. Let's take one more sip. And try to leave a little bit in there to come back to it. But there's so much sweetness on this. And there's some nice baking spices coming out as well. And I will say, the more I sip this, the more those flavors are there, the more I'm getting all of these different combating flavors. That's mid-8s. That is really good Wild Turkey. Let's go to Russell's 15 real quick. Let's see if it can stack up. Let's see, Russell's 15 is an incredible bottle of whiskey. Many had it as the #1 whiskey of 2024. I disagreed. I placed it slightly lower, but still in the top 5. And if you want to check out that review, definitely go for it. Yeah, so this one I will say is slightly more straightforward on the nose, really featuring a nice dark berry note on this. But there isn't really any of that bright red fruit going on, where I do like the bright red fruit here on Generations. And that's likely coming from the 9-year element in this, whereas obviously Russell's 15 is just going to be 15 years and above. And so an interesting part about this is that this is purely 15-year and older juice at 117 proof, and Wild Turkey Generations, which is 9-year, 12-year, 14-year, and 15-year juice, is $200 more MSRP. It's just so interesting. But let's take a sip here of Russell's 15 and let's see. Look, Russell's 15 is great, but you have a dark berry note, you have a nice chewiness on it, you get really oaky. And if you don't mind that good old Wild Turkey funk mixing with oak, it's a good pour. I think it is a very solid pour. I think it's worth $250. I know sometimes I've said it, maybe it's not even worth $250. I've clowned it for being Whiskey of the Year. It's still really good. I've come around a lot on this pour. I think the first few times I tried it, it just didn't hit, but as I go back to it more, I do like it more. But Generations is a lot better. I mean, a lot better. And that's because I like the bright red fruit. I like the youth on the Generations. I like the 9, 12, 14-year components in this. I think this 15-year, it tastes 15 years old. It tastes old. It tastes really oaky. At least on this time around, this is oakier than I've ever had the Russell 15. But I think that nice chewiness and the dark berries definitely keep me around and definitely make me think this is still an 8.4 whiskey. I've rated this an 8.4 multiple times. I'm going to hold by that rating. I think Russell's 15 at 8.4 is very fair. I'm going to go back. I'm going to take this quarter sip that I have left of the Wild Turkey Generations, and let's see. But this Wild Turkey Generations, really nice. And I will say, I believe both of these are one-off releases. And the fact that Russell's 15 is the one that's surging on secondary, wow. I guess Wild Turkey Generations wasn't rated in all of the top 2024 whiskeys of the year because it was released in October 2023, which is nice. Let's take this sip here. And you just have so many elements working there. The finish is longer. The flavor is more potent on that. There's definitely a good amount of pepper on this, I will say. And you cannot shy away from the pepper. And I like the pepper. I think it's one characteristic of many on this pour that makes me not mind it as much. And the pepper does evolve into oak, so you are really getting a lot of the similar oak notes that you're getting on Russell's 15. But I think this is starting off with more red cherry at the beginning. I think it's having more caramel throughout the pour. I think there's more vanilla on it. I think more of the sweet bourbony flavor profiles that I tend to lean towards, I think is on this Wild Turkey Generations in a way that I don't think it's on the Russell's 15 nearly as much. Well, that Generations is going to win out by, it's an 8.6 today. That's the highest I've ever rated a Wild Turkey product. That is competing with plenty of George C. Stagg releases. That's competing with, that's going to beat really most of the B-Tax for me. I think William Llewellyn, George C. Stagg, Thomas Henry will depend on the year, but at 8.6, that is an incredibly solid release from Wild Turkey. And I may even say it might be worth $450, especially if Russell's 15 is going to be $500 anyways. I think Wild Turkey Generations might be a little too slept on at this time, but I don't know, maybe it should stay a little bit cheaper so that I could get a couple bottles before it explodes. But anyways, I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. In conclusion, Wild Turkey Generations is great. I love Wild Turkey Generations, and really well done on a masterclass of blending to the Russell family. I think they know they killed it. They always kill it. But anyways, I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I catch you all in the next one.